少なかったし、アメリカ人のジャズミュージシャンにそっくりだと言われれば、それは最大の、産地だったと思うんだけども、今や誰かにそっくりって言ったらそれは最大の非難だと思うんですよね。だからそんなことで、やっぱり自分たちのオリジナリティっていうのをやっぱりここにみんな、確立しつつあると思うし、それでやっぱりアメリカと日本、文化の面ではやっぱり尊敬し合うという、ことだと思うんですよね。そのジャズが日本とアメリカの架け橋になってる、なんかオーバー・ザ・レインボーみたいなね、感じで、これからもどんどん行くだろうし、それでこれからもアメリカと日本の付き合い、ずっとね永遠に続くんじゃないですか。だからそれを楽しみに、しています。
Americans and other foreigners, meanwhile, found a captive audience in Japan in the 1970s, and they discovered that the Japanese were willing to pay handsomely to see live music. American bassist Paul Jackson first performed in Japan with Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters. Paul's appreciation for Buddhism and Japanese culture inspired him to move here permanently in the early 1980s.
I'm Paul Jackson. I play bass, and I've been living in Japan for 15 years. I'm not a different musician, but I am definitely a different person. I think any experience that a person has in his life that can make him grow through learning other cultural, being immersed in a different cultural environment can help him. And being in Japan is something that's actually more or less fitted my character, I think, from the people themselves, and my basic nature. Sometimes quiet or whatever, and it was a different thing for me. I think I found a very good match of where, so far as my lifestyle, of a place where I wanted to live, and that's why I live in Japan and will continue to live in Japan.
Paul Jackson!
Paul Jackson has made a lasting contribution to the jazz and blues music scene in Japan over the years. He's one of the owners of a recording studio and rehearsal center in Tokyo that caters to young musicians in the area.
We've built this. We literally built this place up from nothing to what it is right now, and I think it's something to be proud of because of this. Near this place there's 4, 5 schools, I think. 3 colleges and 2 high schools or junior high schools, and all these they come right down this street, and a lot of them have. We have on the pictures on the walls. You can see it's like all girl bands, all different kinds of bands. Some of the bands are even teachers, that come in and play that for their own enjoyment, and that's what this basically is. It's a meeting place where like the young musicians, amateur musicians. The real wannabes. They come here and they practice and they get their thing together, and they can get advice. We've done seminars here with various musicians. I've done seminars. We've done recordings here. Recordings are available here.
To the bridge 2 times. The sound of a party. People are having a good time. Yeah.
I've always tried to bring together a different combination of musicians together, and the people have always enjoyed it.
Who's that?
most of the musicians are pretty famous, actually, in their own bands. Like last time Char was there. I have all kinds of these people that kind of drop in and play.
Paul Jackson is also the founder of the Jazz for Kids program, a unique concert experience that introduces young Japanese students to jazz and blues and the history behind the music.
Taro, our little harmonica player, who's like, he's the music Tiger Woods of Japan, and this kid is like just fantastic. I mean, and he is just, he's one of the products of all the music that's coming to Japan now, American music and music from around the world, from different things. So you have this interest that's starting with kids now, and hopefully the Jazz for Kids programs helped a little of this, where young kids have a chance to be exposed to music that they probably never would have heard before.
My name is Taro Senga. I'm 8 years old.
俺はブラインドレモンブラザーズでギターと歌をやってます。千賀太郎のお父さん、千賀明光です。年はね、41歳。
Taro Senga and his father, Akimitsu, performed together as the Blind Lemon Brothers. Their idols are American blues legends like Buddy Guy, B.B. King, and harmonica player Lee Oskar, who recently produced Taro's debut album in Los Angeles. Taro was 7 years old at the time. Today, Taro and his father join Lee Oskar in this blues harmonica extravaganza in Tokyo.
Junior Wells と一緒にやったんだけど死んじゃったから泣きました。
今までね、一番楽しかったことは、太郎とアメリカに行って、アメリカのロサンゼルスのクラブで、もちろんアフロアメリカンの人たちのクラブで、みんなアフロアメリカン、そこでブルースをやって、ロイ・ゲインズとあとロン・ブラウンという人と一緒にセッションして、その時にブルースをやって、お客さんがみんな喜んでくれたこと。日本でブルースをやっていて、 こんなにお客さんが喜んでくれたことはなくって、みんなイエーイ。
死んでも天国でも地獄でもハーモニカやりたいです。
My name is Charles Shimizu. I play keyboards. I play piano and organ mainly, and I'm starting to work with some of synthesizer stuffs. And I do lots of different sessions, live recordings, and I've been working that for maybe 20 years. I think blues is like the alphabet. Unless you know the alphabet, you can't spell the words right.
Charles is the author of Blues Piano, the first book of its kind published in Japan.
The blues came from this area, and it flourished. At least it had it identified itself in this country, and now I like to expand it to this country, which is where I'm from. And I'll talking all about that in maybe like 200 pages. And I also have a CD here of my own playing of various blues styles. I call it 7 Ways to the Blues.
Charles played in numerous Japanese blues bands in the 1970s, and it was while recording an early album that he first met and performed with his future wife. 20 years later, Charles and Chiaki Shimizu are back in the studio to cut a new track for a commemorative album.
When I started off in the 70s, the big movement came. And it was very energetic, but that also was the movement of Japanese young people. Then they were screaming for freedom, liberty. The counterculture all came to Japan too, like in the United States. It was the same way. Hippie movement was here too, so it all came that time. Since then, I think blues kind of came a little down, faded a little bit, but strangely enough, it never died out. And I don't know if it's picking up. Everybody say, "Hey, it's picking up again. It's picking up again." But we said that 20 years ago.
Charles was the only Japanese member of the band when Chicago blues veteran Syl Johnson performed at the annual Park Tower Blues Festival in Tokyo. Charles became a musical role model for the many young Japanese fans in the audience.
And I was the only one Japanese playing for that session. Encore session, and I heard some guys from the audience saying "Ganbatte," and you're representative of us, so be there and stick there and give us this thrill out of it.
It just came to my mind about Charles, this great organ player and keyboard player here in Japan. When I was on my way, I was thinking about Charles, because I met Charles and we went on tour, and Charles was wonderful. So Charles, at this point, is helping to pull my show together. because he know my style, he know my music, he know my songs, because he played them before.
And I'm fresh out of jail. If you want to keep your good time, go right ahead.
I don't know, 10 years ago, they said, hey man, you're different, man. And you're not the real thing. So go away. We want to listen to just the real thing. But yeah, these Japanese young guys, young generation, I think they're opening up.
Charles is quick to point out that American and Japanese audiences tend to respond to live music somewhat differently.
Japanese tend to be looking at other people. Nobody's standing right now. I better not stand. They have that kind of consciousness. Maybe some people will say that's shyness. It's Japanese shyness. But I don't know. They're more used to being. They can't. It's like a social thing. Nobody can just be a pivot and just get up and do their thing. They have some kind of social pressure that limits us to being more independent and expressive. And that's very Japanese, you know.
With its abundance of street musicians, Tokyo's sidewalks reflect Japan's gradual move away from what has traditionally been a conservative corporate culture. Although its economy is not as robust as it was during the bubble years of the 1980s, Japan still affords a decent living for many musicians, whether they perform on the streets or in one of hundreds of venues. Music festivals and street performers now abound throughout Japan. For the past 4 years, the Asagaya Jazz Festival has entertained suburban Tokyoites, exposing new audiences to new bands. Many Japanese musicians are now overcoming a long-held complex in which they felt that only Americans, particularly African Americans, could perform authentic jazz. This myth has gradually been replaced by the reality of gifted Japanese musicians performing for and being embraced by international audiences.
I came here thinking I was going to knock walls down, just like, hey, it's me, a little arrogant. And I think a lot of Americans come here feeling that way. They're going to come here and just clean up. And at one time, it was coming to Japan and performing was like just picking up money off the street, almost, just rake it in, But it changed a little bit, and I'm glad it changed because a lot of people went home. And some of the people who went home were people who I didn't feel, in my opinion, weren't really representing us as Americans, as musicians, the way that I would want to be represented. And Japanese, as a people, usually judge you by the people who precede you.
Seems we're always going, wherever we find our way. Seems the time we've always got, we haven't got a friend.
Nathan Ingram has lived in Japan for 6 years. He now teaches vocal expression at a university in Tokyo, where he has found a source of renewed inspiration through his students.
There are people here who study music. I feel compelled to acknowledge their effort and their desire to learn and the risk that's involved in making such a commitment, because a lot of musicians here are really committed to music. Japanese language has like different shapes, rhythms, and sounds than English. The tension patterns and the jaw muscles are different. And here these people are learning to sing in English, right? And a lot of these people speak better English when they sing than some of us speak when we're talking to each other, you know? And but that's a heck of a commitment, man. You know, ask me how many songs I sing in Japanese, and I've been living here 6 years.
Cotton, give me a handful of cotton. Take me tonight to those fields of snowy white along that muddy river shore.
Women in Japan have long been active in jazz and blues, often appearing on stage as a vocalist supported by an all-male backup band. However, a new group of female instrumentalists, such as jazz fusion artist Yukari, are now making a name for themselves in Japan.
This is Tokyo, I'm Yukari, and this is my Mark 6 tenor sax.私は、どっちかっていうとロック音楽を聴いてた方がファンクとかそっちの方が長かったんですけど、みんな私でも文句なく楽しめちゃうローランド・カーク、やっぱりこうパワーがものすごくて、彼にはものすごく影響を受けました。アメリカから音楽が入ってきて初めての世代じゃないわけですから、もうある意味で生まれた時からいつもそういう音楽が鳴っていた時にね、それを全部自分の体の中で消化して新しく生み出したもの、それはまたなんかこう、例えば全く同じように聞こえるけれども、きっとどこかちょっとスパイスが違ってる、ちょっとお醤油臭いのかもしれないけど、なんかそういうものがあるような気がします。
Over the past few decades, more and more musicians are moving to different countries to expand their music and their audience. American musicians High Tide Harris, Arkansas Fats, and Tom Pearson call Tokyo their home, while Japanese jazz artists Yosuke Yamashita, Taramasa Hino, Junko Onishi, Makoto Ozoni, and countless others now call New York home for much of the year. American jazz drummer Elvin Jones and vocalist Helen Merrill lived for many years in Japan, while John Kaizan Neptune has lived with his family in Japan for over 20 years. A pioneer of jazz shakuhachi, Neptune has fused Japanese musical traditions with jazz and world music.
My name is John Kaizan Neptune, and I play a traditional Japanese bamboo flute called the shakuhachi. And every musician draws on their experience. And in my case, it's actually fairly wide-ranging because my original input has been ethnomusicology and studying world music. So I have this great love for all of the world's music. And one of the things that I've done as a working musician and as a composer is, and an instrument maker as well, is to use a lot of these wonderful textures from these beautiful traditions from around the world. And that includes, of course, jazz from America. Just because you're a Japanese national doesn't mean you have an understanding of Japanese music. And the reverse is also true. Just because you're a Japanese national doesn't mean you can't swing. There are a lot of really good jazz musicians in Japan, and they have a history. You know, you can say, oh yeah, well, you know, they haven't been doing it long enough. That's not true. They have been doing it long enough. And these kids have grown up listening to jazz. If you start thinking, what kind of an expression do you not find in terms of culture in Europe that you can find in America? And one of the immediate things that comes to mind is jazz. This is one of the great musical traditions that America, or great cultural things that America has to offer the world. And Japanese love and appreciate jazz. There wasn't any one particular day where I said, okay, now I'm going to play jazz on the shakuhachi. It's flowed. It sort of like the instrument asked me to travel this direction, particularly with the emphasis on improvisation. Jazz is such an incredibly open genre to explore an instrument that has the incredible amounts of expression that the shakuhachi has.